All right, here we are looking at our chapter 3 practice test, and we'll just jump right in. Question 1 says, which relation is a function? So remember, a function means that every x pairs to only one y. So when I look at this first one, I notice that I have a repeat of 1 and 1, and the domain of 1 goes to 0, and the domain of 1 here goes to 1. And so that there by itself, it makes it that one not a function. There are others, 3, and also 1 goes to 3. So that one's out. So when I look at B, I see that 1 goes to 1, and I don't see that 1 goes anywhere else. 2 goes to 2, nowhere else. 3 as a domain goes to 3 as a range, nowhere else. 4 goes to 4, 5 goes to 8. So I would say B is a function. Now, this one doesn't say select all that apply, but just being cautious that I am, I'm just going to check to see if there's another one that is also a function. So when I look at C, 2 goes to 7. Oh, but also down here, 2 goes to 1. That makes it not a function. And D, 9 goes to -3, and 9 also goes to 3, makes it not a function. So I think the best answer here is B. Number 2 says identify the domain and the range. Guys, domain deals with x's, and so I'm just listing the x values that I see. So 2, 8, 30, and 46. And range deals with the y's, so -1, 9, and 16. Just a quick hint to help you with that. Domain comes before range in the alphabet. D comes before R, just like X comes before Y. So domain matches with X's, range matches with Y's. Number 3 says Jack works after school each day. He earns a set amount of money plus an hourly wage. Write a linear function Jack can use to determine his pay. When it says write a linear function, it's simply meaning write an equation. And so to do that, because they give me a bunch of points here, I'm going to use the point slope form as long as it's linear. So I'm going to check that first. So 18 to 23, I'm adding 5. 23 to 28, I'm adding 5. 28 to 33, I'm adding 5. And 33 to 38, I'm adding 5. This looks promising. So I continue to look at the x's though. I'm adding a half. I'm adding a half. I'm adding a half, and I'm adding a half. So again, it doesn't matter what the change in x and change in y's are. What matters is the slope, which is the change in y divided by the change in x. This finally tells me the slope is 10. So then I choose a point. Any point will do. And I'm going to write the equation of the line y minus 18 is equal to my slope 10 times x minus 1. Now that's an equation in slope or point slope form, and that would work. But I can also go to the next step by distributing and getting 10x minus 10 is equal to y minus 18, and then finally adding the 18 over and getting that my equation is actually 10x plus 8. This tells me he's getting $10 per hour, plus he's getting $8 for showing up and doing something. I'm not sure what that piece is right now. So now they say in item 3, assume Jack works from 2:30 to 7. How much would he earn? So 2:30 to 7, I first have to figure out 2:30 to 7 is actually 4.5 hours. And so since X stands for hours, I'm going to plug in 4.5 for the X. So I'm going to get Y is equal to 10 times 4.5 plus 8. 10 times 4.5 is 45 plus 8 more. He's getting paid $53. So I would choose choice D. Number 5 says write the first 4 terms of the sequence if it's given in this form, this explicit sequence. First of all, that should be an N. I think it was fixed. But when I do that, the first thing I'm going to do, first term, is I'm finding A sub 1. My mouse is not working. A sub 1. So that means I'm going to replace the N with a 1. And I'm going to take 3 times 1, which is 3 plus 6 more gives me an answer of 9. So the first term is 9. Then I'm going to find A sub 2 by replacing the N with a 2. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 6 more gives me an answer of 12. My next term is 12. Now you may already see the pattern forming, but I'm a cautious person, so I'm going to at least go one more and find a sub 3, which means 3 times 3 plus 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 6 is 15. And at this point, I now see the pattern. I see I'm adding 3 each time, so I'm just going to say the fourth term there is 18. Moving on to the next page, again, we're writing the first 4 terms of a sequence, but this time they're giving me a recursive rule. So a recursive rule always tells us where to start the equation. So that's my first term is 21. And then they say to find the next, take the previous term and subtract 2. So 21 minus 2 would give me 19. Then 19 minus 2 would give me 17. And then 17 minus 2 would give me 15. Since they just asked for 4 terms, that's where I'm stopping. Number 7 says, which of the following is an arithmetic sequence? An arithmetic sequence is a sequence that follows the pattern of adding or subtracting over and over. So I'm just going to start working my way through these to see which one that is. So because of space, I'm going to start here at the bottom. 5 plus 6 gets me to 11. 11 plus 6 gets me to 17. 17 plus 6 gets me to 23. This one's looking promising. 23 plus 6 gets me to 29. And 29, plus 7 gets me to 36. D is not an arithmetic sequence. Moving on to C, 2 plus 2 gets me to 4, but then 4 plus 4 gets me to 8. I can stop right there and say that C is not arithmetic. B, I'm saying 0 plus 5 gets me to 5, but then I would have to take 5 minus 5 to get me to 0. I'm not adding or subtracting the same thing over and over, so B is out. So I sure hope A is arithmetic. Let's take a look. -2 minus 3 gets me to -5. -5 minus 3 gets me to -8. -8 minus 3 gets me to -11. -11 minus 3 gets me to -14, and -14 minus 3 gets me to -17. I would say my answer here is A. It is an arithmetic sequence. Number 8 says the cost of having one pizza delivered is $14, and each additional pizza costs $9 more. Write the formulas to represent this situation. So remember, anytime we write an explicit or a recursive, we've got to know 2 things. We've got to know where it begins, and we've got to know how it's changing. So in this case, it says one pizza delivered is 14. That's where it begins. And the change is we're adding 9 each time. So once I know those 2 things, I can write my explicit and recursive form. My recursive form, I'm going to start with that one. Always says A sub 1 equals, and we tell it where to begin, 14. And then A sub 1, the next term, is always equal to the previous term plus 9 more. The explicit form, I'm going to have to do a little work on here. So I'm going to say A sub n is equal to the first term, 14, plus n minus 1 times 9, or the change. I'm going to distribute n and get 9n minus 9. I haven't done anything up here to the 14, so now I'm going to combine the 14 and the minus 9, and I'm going to end up with 5 plus 9n. So my explicit form is A sub n is equal to 5 plus 9n. Number 9 says the table below shows the revenue in billions of dollars at the theme park in a certain country. It says make a scatter plot of the data, and they kind of give us a hint here, the year and then the revenue. So that means the X value is going to be the year and the Y value is going to be the revenue. All right, so when I look at this, I'm going from the year 1990 to 1998. So let's see if I can fit it each year. 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. It looks like it will fit. And so I'm going to go ahead and label every other, the evens, just for space. All right, then when I look at revenue, it looks like I'm going from 5.7 and my highest is 8.7. So let's just see if I can count by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It looks like I can do that too. So I'm just labeling again the evens. And right here is where my screen doesn't seem to be working very well. All right, now I'm going to plot these points. I'm going to go over 90 and up 5.7 and plot a point. If it'll let me. All right, then I'm going to go over to 1992 and go up to 6.3 and plot a point. Then I'm going over to 94 and up to 6.9 and plotting a point. Over to 96 and up to 7.9, so almost to 8, and then finally 98 up to 8.7. So all it asked me to do is make a scatter plot, so I'm just plotting those points. Moving on to question 10 then, it says, what type of correlation does this scatter plot in item 9 show? So if I come back and look at it, I'm either looking for a correlation or an association of positive, negative, or not associated. In this case, it looks like I could draw a positive line or a line with a positive slope. So I'm going to say that this is a positive correlation or association. All right, number 11 says draw a trend line and then write the equation from the scatter plot in item 9. Guys, this one, every one of us could have a different answer based on the trend line that we draw. So remember our trend line, we need to draw a line that we think closely models the data. We want to do our best to get it points above and below and just do the best that we can. And then we're going to choose 2 points on this line. When I drew my line, it kind of looks like this point here and this point here are both on my line, although you may have different points chosen, and that's okay. So it looks like I'm going to use 1990 and 5.7, and then 1996 and 7.9. So I'm going to come back down here and use those two numbers, 1990 and 5.7, and then 1996 and looks like it was 7.9. Again, you may have different numbers chosen, and if you have different numbers chosen, your work and your answer is going to be a little bit different than mine, and that's okay. I'm just going to have to look at your work to determine what you've done. All right, so the first thing I do is find my slope by taking 7.9 minus 5.7, y minus y, over x minus x, 1996 minus 1990. And in this case, I have 7.9 minus 5.7, and I get an answer of 2.2. And then 1996 minus 1990, and I get an answer of 6. And so when I take 2.2 divided by 6, I get a slope of 0.36 repeating, so I'm going to say 0.37. Now again, even the answer key that I've posted, I have a little bit of a different slope, and that's just because I drew a little bit of a different trend line, and that's okay. All right, once I have my slope, I choose a point and I begin to write my equation. Y minus 5.7 is equal to 0.37 times x minus 1990. And then I do my 2 steps to get this in slope-intercept form, 0.37x, and then 0.37 times 1990, I get 736.3. All right, last step is I need that y by itself, so I'm adding the 5.7 to each side. And when I do that, I end up with y is equal to 0.37x minus, 730.6. That would be my equation based on the trend line that I drew. All right, then question 12, it says predict the revenue at the theme park using my equation that I just wrote. That means even if you have a different equation, I want you to use your equation to answer question 12. Since they're asking for the year 2012 and the years were our X value, I'm just going to plug in 2012 everywhere I see that X. So 2012 and then minus 730.6. So I'm going to take the 0.37 times 2012 and then minus or subtract the 730.6. And I end up with Y is equal to 13.84. In this case, that means that we are predicting $13.84 billion in the year 2012. All right, now I want you to analyze what we did back there on question 9. So all of these are kind of going together. It says which statements about that trend line are true. And so 2 of them talk about slope, 2 of them talk about y-intercept. So we're probably not going to have both of those things, but it's possible we could have one of each. So let's see what it says. It says the slope is the revenue for 1 year. Guys, when we talk about a slope, we're talking about rise over run, rise over run. And so if we're talking about each year, we're talking about how much did I rise and run each year? Yeah, slope would tell me how much they're earning each year individually. Slope is not the year, X is the year. Then the y-intercept says it's the revenue for the initial year. That would make sense, at least the initial year that we're keeping track. It is not the revenue per year, since that's what we already talked about up above. So I think A and C would be our answers. All right, number 14 says which R value selects a weak positive. Guys, our 2 keys are weak and positive. So the fact that it's positive means I can eliminate B and D right away. And then remember, the closer our R value, or our correlation coefficient, the closer it is to 1 or -1, the stronger the correlation is. So if we want weak, we want a number that's not close to 1. So we would say A. All right, the last 2 on the last page, we're going to take a look at. On these, we're looking at, is the following a function? We're just answering yes or no on each one and then explaining why we chose what we chose. So because they're graphs, I'm going to use the vertical line test. And when I use the vertical line test, I'm trying to see, does a vertical line touch the graph more than once? And never do I see it touch in more than one place. Therefore, this graph passes the vertical line test. So yes, it is a function. And my reasoning why is because it passes the vertical line test. Oops. Passes the vertical line test. All right, I'm doing the same thing here on B. I'm drawing some vertical lines and I'm looking to see, do any of these lines touch in more than one place? And I don't see that they do. So again, B is a yes because it passes the vertical line test. All right, finally then we go to answer or problem C. And when we get to C, we see a graph here. And if I test this one using the vertical line test, every one of those lines, it looks like is passing in more than one spot. So that answer would be a no because it does not pass the vertical line test. All right, finally, question number 16 asks us to graph some functions. Guys, remembering graphing is just the same as graphing a line in slope-intercept form. And so the first thing we need to do is get our x and our y-axis drawn. And then because it's in slope-intercept form, I'm going to begin at the y-intercept of -2. And then follow my slope, which I want to be a fraction, rise over run. So from that point of -2, I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, and run to the right 1 because it's a positive, and I get my line here. The second one, again, I'm going to get my x and my y-axis drawn, and this one starts at a +2 on the y-axis, and this slope is -1/4. So I'm either going to make it a -1/4 or a +1 over -4. Either way, I'm either going to go down 4 down 1 and to the right 4, or I'm going to go up 1 and to the left 4. Either one gets me a line that looks like this. All right, guys, that takes us through the practice test. I hope that helped. If you've got further questions or there's still some that you're unsure of, make sure you're making an appointment with Mr. Jordan or myself, Mrs. Sanders. We'd be happy to help you and want you to do well on your test. So make sure you're studying and preparing. We'll talk to you later.